Welcome to the Hidden Philanthropist podcast, proudly presented by the Purdie Foundation. Join us as we uncover the art of giving back.
Hey listeners, get ready today to be inspired. If ever there was a person who has not only survived, but thrived when faced with unimaginable hardship and abuse, Kate Austin is that person, a remarkable human with unending optimism and drive. Kate also loves to talk about her passions, her family, and her foundation. You can't help but be moved and inspired. An award-winning, engaging international speaker, social justice warrior, mental health advocate, motivator, and an energetic visionary with an incredible story to tell about the place and time in your life that Pinchapoo was born. Welcome to the Hidden Philanthropist podcast, Kate Austin.
Hi, how are you? Wow, that's a intro, isn't it? Did I write that? Who wrote that?
Well, that was the intro before I met you today. Now the intro is just the diva philanthropist who loves sparkly things. So that's our intro into the podcast. So firstly, from me, thank you for taking part and giving us your time today. It's really special to get to come and spend time with people like you that do amazing things. And you do have an incredible story to tell. A modern day Robin Hood concept that has led to incredible success story that is Pinchapoo that we're here to talk about today. Life has taken on an extraordinary path for you, Kate. Life growing up looked very different to today for you. Can we talk a little bit about the life of a young Kate Austin and what that looked like, sort of the journey pre-Pinchapoo?
I think probably Pinchapoo was born quite early in my life. I just didn't really realise it at the time, but there was a series of significant events that I guess have led to this journey and the reason I'm so passionate about it. So yeah, when I was 14, 15, I was living in a pretty bad family environment. I was experiencing all types of abuse at the hands of both of my parents. And I guess when I speak about it now, I look back at it and I go, we didn't really have a label for that at the time. Like, because we didn't have social media, there was no real exposure to, the word domestic violence. But like we do now, we have a label, we know what's acceptable, we know what isn't, we know where to get help. I guess for a very long time, I just assumed that what was happening in my house was actually quite normal without any other exposure or anything to compare my life to. And so, as you get older, you get more inquisitive and more challenging as a teenager, I suppose. And one night in particular, I must have looked at my dad the wrong way or sideways, I'm not sure. And he decided to take to me and kicked me from one end of the house to the other, breaking all of my ribs. And I guess I talk a little bit about instinct and how quickly that instinct kicks in when you're in that fight or flight situation. And I knew I had no upper body strength because of my injuries to my ribs. So I crawled to my bedroom. My instinct was to use the strength of my legs to be able to fight him off. So I did that for a bit, and then he picked up a cast iron desk chair. So you're old enough like me to remember what the cast iron desk chair looked like. Very heavy and very sharp, and picked that up and went to put it through my head. My brother, thankfully, which sounds very Hollywood, but sort of came in like seconds before it was going to go through my head. So I knew I needed to leave very quickly because I knew that next time I wasn't going to perhaps have that opportunity to escape. So I had moments to leave, and the things that you think are so important to you in the heat of the moment. The time was my Kelly Slater surfing posters all over my room, my diaries. It was a very different time without dating myself. CDs and clothes, things that I really cared about.
Material items.
Right. I just wasn't even a thought. I ran straight into my bathroom and I grabbed my toothbrush. And I remember even thinking at the time, how are you going to do with your toothbrush? What's your plan here? Like, everything's going so quickly. But I left with the clothes on my back, carrying my toothbrush. And at the time, I didn't know how significant that was, but obviously now I do, knowing that the power of that, the power of being able to brush your teeth and just kind of reset and start again is really profound. And so, yeah, I guess I like to say that Pinchapoo was born on that night, but yeah, probably didn't come to the realisation until a little bit longer. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the beginning of that journey. But unfortunately, I spiraled out of that teenager who knew it all and had left home and was fending for herself and knew everything there was to know about the world. Finished school couch surfing and in and out of home and getting no support from any type of not-for-profit they just didn't exist at that time. It would be very different now. That got through high school and was doing very well and, was very switched on and very energetic and motivated. And then just like a freight train, one day I was struck down with post-traumatic stress disorder. And that led to psychosis, suicide attempts and self-harming and lots of wonderful, beautiful mental health buzzwords. That was for 8 years, just a blur. People talk about what I've done at Pinchapoo as being my proudest achievement, but for me, that was probably the thing I think that I will hang my hat on later in life on my deathbed and say I survived that, because it really is, for anyone who's had any type of mental health battle, it is every second of every day you're fighting with yourself, and it's just turmoil. So on one of my darkest days, I was in the shower and I had been away a couple of weekends before and had pinched my hotel toiletries. I pinched my shampoo and aimlessly washing my hair, and I just had this crazy lightning bolt. I call it like a lightning bolt moment. It really just kind of went through me. And I thought, what if? Every great idea starts with what if. What if we got a few people who I knew were travelling to start pinching the hotel toiletries? They are included in the cost of your accommodation. We weren't doing anything illegal. I checked it all out. I came running out of the shower, stark naked, screaming Pinchapoo. I knew straight away that this was my opportunity to even be able to help one person that had been in a situation like I'd been in, just from a really simple, no one uses them anyway. You take your stuff that you normally use, throw it in your suitcase, and yeah, so from one person being able to be helped to now over 980 different charities around Australia. Pinchapoo was supplying the entire part of their hygiene component of their aid to disadvantaged people in every situation. So it's been a ride.
Incredibly hard ride. And I would imagine at that age, having left, and I read somewhere in there, at times you went and stayed at your boyfriend's house.
Yep.
And having those sort of momentary times of getting away from that environment, but then having to go back into it.
Yeah, well, I guess the system at the time really forced people. There wasn't any options. There wasn't domestic abuse refuges. There was I went to Centrelink and they said, you don't fit into any categories. I remember, I will never forget the sheet of ticks and crosses, and they sat there and they listened to me howl my eyes out and said, you don't fit into a category, see you later. So, with Pinchapoo, we've never made anybody qualify for help. If you've put your hand up and said we need help, then that's enough for me to say that you need help. So, yeah, it was a pretty crappy time.
To be able to come out of that, though, and I guess through adversity and hardship, they say at times can bring on opportunities for success and for growth and all these amazing things. And you've gone on to be incredibly successful, and people measure success in so many different things. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people measure success in financial gain and how much money you got, which really is not success at all. Success is things like your ability to build relationships with your kids, your family, your friends, helping other people.
I think it's your idea of success. I always say to my kids, my 15-year-old, what's your idea of success? By the time you've even got the question out, it's money. It's money, that's the answer. And I say to him, that's perfectly okay if that's Lamborghinis and big houses, and if that's what your idea of success is, and that's awesome. But it's never been mine. Mine's been about, again, being able to lie on my deathbed and say, I helped millions of people. And so if I never got the huge giant mansion, then I'm okay with that, because I did what I feel is my idea of success. And I think I say to people all the time, it's so important to define what that is for you.
I've got to say that on my journey throughout my career, like in the property industry, property development industry, there's been a lot of people that are older than me in my sphere of influence that you can just tell by talking to them and being with them and spending time with them that their vision for success or their view on success is absolutely financial, and it's driven 100% by money. To compare that to my journey now on the Hidden Philanthropist and meeting people like yourself that measure success so differently, the happiest people that I meet are the ones that measure success in all these wonderful things that we've talked about, and not by money, because that money thing is just an endless path of chasing and
you can never have enough. Yeah, that's the thing.
And you shift the goalposts of what success looks like, because it might be a Ferrari, but then when you get the Ferrari, you realise you're still really unhappy, and then it's a boat, and then you get the boat. And whereas true fulfillment really does come through helping others, doesn't it?
And you know that feeling. Even say to people, if someone looks great in the supermarket, then walk up to them and say, you look really pretty today or something. And even just doing that, the buzz, if you could bottle that, that's where we'd make our billions. But that feeling, I get to wake up and do that every single day. And so I actually really couldn't care less what I make or don't make. That for me is the essence of purpose.
Yeah, so that's the childhood and those real struggles, and we'll talk about it later in the podcast, but congratulations on being able to take that path and find success.
Yeah, it's been a healing journey. I mean, I think I get too much credit for that. Selfishly, it's been a real healing journey for me to be able to give back and to, directly feel what other people are going through, having been there myself. And so I feel like, sometimes I feel guilty to get credit for that.
Do you know what, though? If your selfishness has led to all these people being helped, and that's fantastic.
Okay, I'll take that.
So I've read in some of the reports online, doing a bit of research about you, that you've been renowned for having profound realizations hit your heart in moments of despair throughout your life. We touched on your childhood. We touched on the sort of light bulb moment where Pinchapoo came about. Talk to me more about that, because being here now today, I mean, this is a massive setup and you have done incredible things. How did you go from having that light bulb moment to actually delivering on your vision?
Oh, Lordy.
Because this is a long... I mean, we're a long way down the road today. From that light bulb moment.
I think for me, all I ever wanted to do, the first question people ask me, did you ever think it would get this big? And the answer is honestly, wholeheartedly, no, I didn't. But I'm the type of person that once I achieve something or I know I'm heading in that direction, I will change the goalpost. And so I've continued to do that. So, you know, when we did help one person, that was amazing. But, well, obviously we can do better. And so then we help one charity and then we can do better and we can better and better. So for me, I guess I'm never really happy. I'm always kind of shifting that light bulb. But I think when you've really, this is going to be a bit is it okay to be spiritual?
Run with it.
Yeah, sorry. I'm a big believer in everybody has a purpose here and it's very unique. And I don't believe that many people actually really get to live that purpose, but I really do feel like I am living my purpose. I've been able to really tune into that. When you speak about profound moments, I'm a big believer in manifestation. So things we really want, you know, like talking about them as if we already have them. And I'm so, I don't want to use the word blessed because it's super cheesy and I'm not religious, but so lucky, which is another word I don't believe in, but I've had these amazing people that have come on the journey all at the right times and met people who have opened the exact right pathways at the exact right times. And it's all sort of just happened really organically. And I think it's because I sort of knew where it was going and I was willing to put my energy out there for people to connect with that energy. And so when I speak about profound moments, sometimes it's a little bit of a harebrained idea that our board will go, oh God, here she goes again. But, you know, but they're willing to back me in because they know that I'm really connected with the purpose, where I'm going, where this is headed and what we're trying to do. So I think just really living your purpose, as cheesy as that sounds, is just really being able to harness that energy. You know, you're doing the right things and you're going in the right direction. Just trusting the process.
It takes credit to you, though. It takes a pretty incredible person to be able to have that foresight and also deliver on it, though. 60,000 charities around Australia now registered, not-for-profits or causes alike. And
it's a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot. It's so many. It's like we often talk about in podcasts, charity fatigue and have we got too many? And I'm actually not going down that path now. What I'm saying is like for you to be able to have that vision and execute, there's so many people that have a go but don't execute, and you say that like we're all here for a reason.
Well, that's because they're doing it for the wrong reasons. And unfortunately, people perceive that, and this might bubble burst for you just kind of stepping into it, but people perceive this industry to be a warm, fuzzy industry, and it's actually not. I was really, really awakened by the egos and the competitiveness and just the really dirty plays that happen. And I think we've been so big on, you know, we're stronger when we work together. Like there's not one charity in Australia who can fix all the problems, all the social issues we have as a country on their own. So we need to learn to work together. And we've had a million opportunities to be more than hygiene, but we know we do hygiene really well. So let us do that. You do what you do and we'll add value to that. So no, you don't want to go down that path of having too many charities, but I think people often get into it for the buzz or for the wrong reasons or for the egos or for the whatever it might be. And I think, you know, that's a real check for people to go through as well. Like, why? What's your why? Why are you actually doing it? Is it because I want the media article or the TV grab or the podcast interview or whatever it might be? Or are you doing it because you genuinely give a shit?
Unfortunately, maybe quite the opposite. I actually have the vision as well that there is too many charities, and I'll tell you why. My wife's involved in doing some work with a charity in Frankston, a food kitchen, and helping with the homeless and heaps of it with mental health issues. And as I got a little bit involved with that and went and spoke to the CEO and started talking to people, I'd had experiences in the past with a food kitchen in Frankston that I took my kids to because I wanted them to see how the world works and get involved and help. And then when I started talking to the one where my wife has been giving her time to, I'm like, this does exactly the same as what's down the road. And then talking to them, I started talking about other groups that were in the local community that have been doing the same thing. There's like 5 or 6 groups that are all doing the exact same thing. None of them will work together. So it's all about them, how they do it. And if they got together and shared their costs, shared their volunteers and resources and worked as a team, they would actually have far better result than what they do now.
That's the wrong reason. That's the wrong reason to do something. Yeah. You're not thinking about the end user. And look, there's plenty of charities where I don't particularly respect the people who manage it or whatever it might be, just from personal experience, but you remove that. It's not them. It's the person, the end user, and you're not thinking about them. You've got to keep that in focus.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think there's a real argument to be had there, whether at times less is more. And like you said, like channeling resources. And
because it's a shit fight for funding. And if you've got too many people, I mean, it's just, it's not easy. But we really have tried to break that mold of we will always use the hashtag stronger together and really just making sure we say to people, do not spend your money on toiletries. Do not spend your money. Put it into food, put it into mentoring, put it into whatever it is that you run in your program. Let us do hygiene. We have the network, we have the stock, we have the logistics, we have the capability to be able to do that for you. Just accept the help and then there's greater outcomes for people.
Yeah. So we've had that light bulb moment. You've had the idea. You've clearly delivered, but actually Pinchapoo as a foundation, as a not-for-profit, and I love some of the things that I've read up on the wall with the Poo crew here and Poo HQ and all those things. What is Pinchapoo? What do you do? How does it work?
Yeah, so Pinchapoo, going back to sort of that original story, is short for or slang for pincher shampoo. So the concept originated with people pinching their hotel toiletries when they were travelling, donating them back to us and then allowing us to distribute them. But obviously that, when you walk through our warehouse today, has grown somewhat. And so we're able to work now, I guess if you're to look at a not-for-profit model, a little bit like a food bank in a way that we can rescue stock from going into landfill. So things that might be deemed slightly less than perfect. Sometimes we'll have to turn a lid like half a term because it has come off the production line and they deem it less than perfect. It's going into the ground, which is just a horrifying thought when you know that 1 in 3 people in Australia are currently experiencing some form of hygiene poverty. So scooping up as much of that landfill destined stock as we possibly can and repurposing it and using it. But working individually with each of the charity partners that we work with. So making sure that what we provide is a holistic. We never provide, someone can come to us and say we want 500 toothbrushes. The answer is no, because anyone who needs a toothbrush actually needs all the other things as well. And we don't want to have to make people ask for things. Like, it's hard enough to ask for one thing, let alone 7 different things. So we pride ourselves on being a real holistic hygiene service for men, women and children equally. And making sure that what we give them is culturally appropriate. You know, things like tampons for ethnic groups are highly offensive. So making sure that we understand who it is that we're working with. Razors, obviously, in mental health and drug and alcohol abuse space is absolute no, or alcohol content on hand sanitizers. You know, it's just really understanding our partners, who they're supporting, what their living situation is. So again, no point giving someone in transitional living situation or homeless a huge bottle of shampoo, because where are they going to put it? They pack up and leave every day. So that single use product is perfect for them, whereas people in longer term accommodation can use the big stuff. So there's sort of a home for everything, but making sure we understand our partners, then being able to supply a customised holistic solution for them and the people that they're supporting.
Yeah, they're pretty incredible statistics. 1 in 3 people, one in three, experiencing hygiene poverty and are forced to make, at times I would imagine, pretty heartbreaking decisions between what they buy and don't buy.
And you get it as a parent. You know, if you've got $50 left to spend in the supermarket, you're filling bellies. The first thing that goes is the deodorant, the new toothbrush that your kids really desperately need, the tampons, you use a bit of toilet paper for this month, mum can't afford it, things like that. And we hear it too much. We heard from a school yesterday on 12 kids who couldn't go on camp because their parents couldn't afford the toiletries to pack to go on camp. Like, it's a real barrier for opportunity and connection and growth. And so, yeah, we're just trying to eliminate that wherever we can.
Yeah, one thing I definitely won't want to do is get political.
Ooh.
A question I want to ask you.
Yes.
What are the main reasons that are leading to such incredibly high statistics, like 1 in 3 people, and we're talking basic hygiene products here. We're not talking about them going without going to nice restaurants in life or going on holidays. We're talking really basic needs.
It's not a hot topic. Can I say that? Without getting political, it's not a hot topic. I'll tell you what is a hot topic: period poverty. Period poverty has got more awareness and publicity and media and attention and funding than you could possibly ever fathom. And for us, it's so frustrating because it's 1% of a bigger issue, right? If you haven't got pads, you also don't have XYZ, right? And that's because it's a women's cause. And again, I'm not going to get political, but we're going to bat. We actually supplied just slightly more men than we do women here when you break down the statistics. So men are just as much in need, and there's no one really talking about that, and nobody wants to talk about it. So we've always really struggled with that profiling part where these are the real issues, right? There's no bullshit here. These are the issues. Who wants to talk about them? And the answer is no, unless you're talking about women, domestic violence, this real kind of niche little area. And so without awareness, it doesn't attract any type of discussion. It doesn't attract any type of momentum or funding or growth. So it's a real battle in our space. It's not a hot topic.
And to dig down a little bit more into Pinchapoo before we go on to the next bit, for people that see what you do and wonder how you do it, so broad brush, like big picture, you're delivering hygiene products to as many of the 1 in 3 people in Australia that are going without them. How does that happen? Like, you've got so much stock here. Is this purchased by you through fundraising events, donations, or are these products donated to you?
So there's probably an 85-15 split. So 85% of our stuff is donated either by public or, as I said, those supplier relationships where it's an overstock, close to use by, or whatever their reason is that it's less than perfect for commercial use. And the other 15% is absolutely purchased. So at the moment, we're using between 8,000 and 10,000 units of every product we use every week. So that's 8,000 to 10,000 toothbrushes. That's 8,000 to 10,000 roll-on deodorants. That's huge numbers. And to be honest, that's really just keeping our head above the water. If we had more, we could certainly use more. So we do have to fill in that 15%. And so that happens with selling our soul regularly. I don't know how many times just one can sell their soul, but I'm certainly looking to break that record. Yeah. And just leaning on those supplier relationships. We go, oh my God, please, I just cannot spend any more money on another toothbrush, but you can't get going without it. So it's a juggle. And people do walk into the warehouse and go, oh my God, you've got so much stock, but it's not always the right stock. It looks impressive, but there are holes that need to be filled. And that's the nature of the beast.
So one part of it is getting the supplies to be able to get out there to help people. The next bit is logistically here within your warehouse, all volunteers?
All volunteers, yeah. We only have 2 employees, so we keep our overheads really low so that whatever money we do raise and acquire, is that the right word? We're able to put back into literally buying product. People give it to us and we will send them a photo of us at the warehouse picking up 10,000 toothbrushes. We have spent your money and this is how it's been spent. So really big on visibility and making sure people know we're doing all the right things.
And I would have thought, and I don't know, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but probably the greatest challenge here logistically, you can get the products here, you can get the donations, you can receive the gifts, you've got the volunteers here to help. But logistically, how do you then get it from one Poo HQ
oh, very good.
out to all of these people that need it? Because I would imagine that would be the greatest struggle.
Yeah, logistics is tricky. And my background is marketing. So this is not my skill set. So I think any not-for-profit, and you're probably learning as you dive into this as well, is that you will learn something every day. And what I know now, I just would never have imagined that I would have known how to do that. I can jump on a forklift and things like, even just really silly things like that where I go, oh my God, that's never a skill set I thought I would have. But you have to become all things to all people within reason when you run a not-for-profit, because you just don't have the same resources as a business that's funded. And with growth in a not-for-profit comes a worse financial situation, whereas in a business, it's the other way around. So yeah, I think you just kind of work it out as you go. But logistics is something I've learned a huge amount about. So working very closely with freight partners, and we run a schools program, which is kind of our flagship program. We can go into that, but it's 240 different schools that need boxes delivered regularly. And so it gets hectic, but that's where processes and systems and just learnings, it's an ever evolving puzzle. You just have to keep going, okay, that's not working. How do we change it? And just make the changes. What
are the struggles? Do you struggle with any of those? Do you struggle with getting freight? Adequate volunteers with freight?
Volunteers is not something we have ever struggled for. And we're the 2 ladies that you met downstairs today, they're here 3 days a week. 3 days a week is a lot to give to something. They don't get paid, and they are so in charge. I will ask them where I'm allowed to put things, where I'm, what I'm allowed to do, what's this, don't touch that. I get in trouble all the time. So, and I love that. I love the ownership that comes with that. Yeah, no, volunteers is not just the thing. Freight for us is just a huge financial barrier.
What about fundraising?
Fundraising, we, like any charity, you take every opportunity you can get. We recently just official charity partners for the Caulfield Cup campaign. So that was a great couple of days at the races, selling our pins and doing that. As well as managing all of this, you have to be on to what's the next opportunity, where's the next money coming from, because you start something, you got to keep it going.
So that's Pinchapoo as it is today. Tell me more about your vision for helping as many Australians as you can access moving forward, and what Pinchapoo looks like from your perspective moving forward.
Yeah, so for me, and it was probably a great little segue without even knowing, our schools program is where our focus is at the moment. So about 7 years ago, we went back to the drawing board and we said, as a group, we're doing a really good job of supporting people in the system. So people who are already under the care of a not-for-profit or a government agency or a community group who are looking after them. But how do we capture people? It's a great saying. How do you stop people jumping into the river rather than pulling them out? So just getting to the front end of it. And we went away and created this program. But part of that research was that our foundations of self-worth are established between the ages of 5 and 10. So they're lifelong. So if you don't have what you need during that time to feel your best, to be able to confidently communicate and connect with your little world around you, that then becomes a lifelong thing. So We created the schools program because what that does is allows schools to know those families, or welfare coordinators, chaplains, school nurses, whoever it is, who know those families. We can't possibly know every person in Australia in need. So leaning on, the institution that is schools to say, you know who that family is. They need some help to not be the smelly kid, or they might be missing 5 days a month because of not being able to manage a period confidently at school, or the kid doesn't want to put their hand up because they've got BO and they can't afford deodorant and things like that. It's a real barrier. So we created a schools program which is now supplying 240 different schools. We are on our hands and knees with data research projects, speaking to the government about funding, and our vision is that every school in Australia has access to that program. So we do get to children during that stage of self-worth development, because that is lifelong. And so every decision we make following that, I'm not really worth it, I don't give a shit about myself, whatever it is, it's that defeatist attitude because you haven't had what you needed in those key years. So that's really where our focus is. Obviously, the other stuff will continue to tick over. We'll always help all the other organisations. But for me, in terms of actually tackling it nationally and at a real root level, that's where I see.
There must have been a real shift in the way our education system works then, because the amount of data research you just mentioned, you've done an actual research into how you're going to distribute into the schools, compared to a school system that couldn't even pick up that you're a victim of domestic abuse at home.
Yep.
For them to know now which families need it, that's a real positive shift,
Every school has a school nurse, every school has a welfare coordinator, every school has a chaplain, and now they even have doctors. So it's such a different time when I say I'm so grateful that kids have got those resources and can talk to people and reach out. But you're right, nobody noticed that I didn't have any of that, or that I was wearing the same clothes every day, or my uniform wasn't washed. It's too hard basket, whereas the lengths we see principals and teachers go to now to supply for their kids, there's breakfast clubs, and it's so much more holistic. So it's a very powerful thing. We just need our government to see the same thing.
Hopefully they do. I had a question here and I'll change it around a bit, but obviously your childhood and your adulthood too have been peppered with joy, but also trauma. You're obviously incredibly courageous, sharing your deeply personal story with everyone. There is a lot of hardship out there in schools and it is really unrecognised. So for you to be able to change it from a question to a compliment, but for you to have that vision to get out there and try and lobby to get support into these
I just think it's about how do we capture people, like the model of not-for-profit is something I guess we've tried to break the whole way along. It's just how I roll, and I like to do things how other people have done it, whether that's right or wrong. But it's been done. All these models are being done and we're still not getting to the people we need to. So you need to think outside the square. And for me, when we hear from principals or teachers of schools and then we hear back from them the difference in students. There's one story that will stay with me for the rest of my life. We had a horribly hysterical phone call from a principal in New South Wales who had a very beautiful 16-year-old girl, beautiful long blonde hair, the popular girl, the cliche story. And she had contracted head lice, which as a parent is extremely common and normal and something we don't bat an eyelid to go and treat, but her family couldn't afford to treat it. So they actually pinned her down and shaved her head to combat the issue. And so all of a sudden she's not the same girl, is she? That's when you're 16, that's your identity. You're the hot blonde girl. And so she reclused, she ended up leaving school. She's got all this trauma to deal with, and really her parents were just trying to combat something that's so easily combatable to us. We're constantly speaking to schools and understanding what those needs are and what those stories are. So now all of our schools packs include head lice treatment kits and things as well, so that can be combated. But yeah, there's some pretty gut-wrenching stuff, but really powerful as well, because when we hear back from them, we hear that there's greater attendance rates and the kids are wanting to get more involved in extracurricular activities and they're happier and they're less bullying. And so that's the really powerful bit when you see the impact or you hear the impact,
Yeah. And for you, Kate Austin, you obviously had some incredible trauma in your life, and yet you've managed to heal and overcome it, I would imagine, to a degree. Everyone's got their challenges and struggles. And then following that, or at some point, you've then come on to create Pinchapoo. Did you self-heal and then go on to help others? Or is this journey of helping others and Pinchapoo part of your healing process?
Exactly that, 100%. These people, and I've always had a rule, I feel like I'm saying so much cheesy stuff, but I've always had a rule that I don't like to work with people who I wouldn't have over for Sunday roast. Like, I'm a bit of a nana. My grandparents sort of brought me up predominantly. So I'm a bit of a nana, love a cup of tea, love a Sunday roast. So, and there's not one person who I would walk through this warehouse at any time who I wouldn't have at my house, who isn't part of my family, who hasn't watched my kids grow up, who hasn't advised me on parenting situations, whatever it is. We really are a family. And those people, when I've had tantrums, and don't worry, it hasn't all been sunshine and lollipops. I've had my tantrums. I've thrown computers. I've done the shits and said, all that I'm out of here. They're the ones who go, Kate, look what you've done. You're better than that. Get up. We'll give me, these two down here will give me a good smack and say, pull yourself out of it, and they're the people you need around you. So yeah, I'm a big believer that this alone has healed me and continues to heal me. Yeah.
It's pretty cool helping others, isn't it?
It's the best. There's no other feeling. You cannot do anything else. Maybe looking into your dog's eyes, potentially the only other time you'll get that feeling, but
not your husband.
Not your husband.
No, just your dogs.
Just your dog. Oh my God. I'm all about the dogs. All about animals in general. That's why my heart was bleeding on your cattle story. But yeah, you harness that and everything else just melts away.
Yeah, and you've actually got to do it to experience it. Like it's that whole
100%.
thing, who's more joy, the gift recipient or the gift giver? And the more you treat yourself in helping others, it is. Showing gratitude, you've obviously mentioned hardship, but so thankfully and luckily it shaped who you are. You're amazing. Do you believe that showing gratitude for our blessings rather than our adversities helps us to achieve some sense of happiness in life?
Oh, God, yeah, 100%.
There's really those sort of two paths you can take,
I would love for my kids to be here for that question. They would have rolled their eyes. I have a whiteboard in my house, and at the dinner table every single night, I make my kids answer, what are you grateful for? What did you do? Hang on, what are my questions? What are you grateful for? What did you do to contribute to your family today? What are you proud of? And what's something kind you've done for somebody else, right? And I know they hate it and I don't particularly care because it's mindset training. It's that understanding that no matter what has gone down, you know what it's like, high school drama, there's always something that's gone down during the day. There is something to be grateful for and we need to train our minds to find that. So yeah, I continually remind myself that those questions are actually just as equally important to me as they are them, but big believer in gratitude. And once that's entrenched in your brain, you don't even really, it really is brain training. You don't actually even have to kind of force yourself to do it. It's just there. The other one that I'm big on is judging people. The second someone walks in, you've assessed their hair, their clothes, their financial situation, whatever it is. I just don't see people like that anymore because I see every walk of life. I see every adversity, every triumph. I've seen it all. And so I'm a big believer in energy, and so I couldn't tell you what any of our volunteers, what their ages are. I just look at their energy, and to me, they're all 20 years old. They're so good. But yeah, that's kind of, I don't give myself an option to be anything but grateful.
You just said then that like the whole judging people by their image and not their energy. It's like the risk of losing you. No, it was pretty hard not to judge you by your image as I walked through the door this morning.
Well, I do have
like the big sparkly earrings. You look amazing. So there you go. Your energy is just as important.
Thank you.
So before we do podcasts and probably before you have any meetings in business, you do a little bit of research about the person that you're interviewing. You made a comment, miracles occur when we open our heart and take a leap of faith without fear of falling. You mentioned before, like some of the key moments in your philanthropic journey about the girl that with her head, like there's sort of these key moments that stick with you. What have been some of the miracles you've experienced through taking this path?
I think there's one story that still gets me when I talk about my head standing up on end. Actually, through Father Bob, believe it or not, who I know you have interviewed, we work very closely with them. And there was, every year they run a huge Christmas lunch for like 400 or 500 people. It's amazing. And so we make sure that every person who comes has got a little gift on their table. And so we work very closely with the likes of Aesop and some amazing brands that I would never use in my entire life, but these are so blessed to be able to pass them on. And so everyone at their table gets a little gift. And this lady had taken her gift and then had reached out to one of the guys at Father Bob and said she'd actually planned to take her life that night because she was so lonely and didn't think anybody cared enough about her. But the fact that there was a gift on the table for her, she actually, I know it's full on. Sorry, everyone's going to be in tears, but it really gets me as well. She was going to take her life, but the simple act of someone going, we actually care about you and we want you to have something amazing on Christmas Day was enough to turn her life around. And she now actually volunteers at Father Bob and he's got her life on track. And not that you suggest that what we did has changed her life, but I think at times people just see a bottle of shampoo or they see a toothbrush and they go, how powerful can that really be? But it actually is so much more than that. It's so much more than that. I always say to people, I did this amazing speaking event for like 4,500 high school kids a couple of years ago, and there's always that one dickhead kid, that stands up and asks you the really stupid question or makes a really stupid comment. But he stood up and he said to me, you can't save the world with a bottle of shampoo, right? And they're not pre-scripted questions. You just got to kind of roll with it and deal with it. And so your parenting hat comes on and you just you roll with it. And I said to him, I absolutely understand that, but we can save somebody's world, just even if it's for a moment, even if it's to hold on long enough to wash your hair and see how you feel after that. It's the end result of what we do that I think is so much more. And it's easy to get caught up. We get caught up with, how many shampoos have we got left? How many conditioners have we got left? We're always kind of stock counting. But when you think about each individual product touching an individual life and an individual time in someone's life, it's really quite profound.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to bring my wife here today. I'm so glad I didn't.
Sorry.
No, because she cries at TV commercials.
Oh my
She'd
God,
be in the corner of a blubbering
Once
mess.
you have kids, huggies ads, that's it. Neighbour. Yeah.
So coming here today and getting even just 5 minutes to interact with the workforce downstairs, very cool setup down there. And I love the mural on the wall. We'll have some photos of that when we do some social media. But yeah, really cool people down there. And I've read one third of your volunteer workforce are people living with various physical and intellectual disabilities, which is an incredible initiative in itself outside of all your other amazing work you do. But Pinchapoo's committed to using some of the awarded funds to continue to educate your team and the wider industry on ways to become more inclusive and promote the incredible benefits of being a diverse workforce. And I guess you'd like to digress from that just for 1 second, to walk through here today, and you said don't judge on image but judge on energy. The energy down there is incredible. They're amazing people.
It's actually quite a small bunch today. You should come in when there's like 15 of them all gagging at each other. Oh my God, it's like a gaggle of geese.
But I would imagine for them it's just as incredible as it is for you to have people with different forms of disability working in here, giving them an opportunity, giving them a sense of purpose, and having them integrated into the workforce. Yeah, it's super cool.
I think that is something that was always so deeply important. I'm such a big believer in the power of belonging somewhere, being able to walk through a door and someone having their arms open to give you a hug and for you to be able to give back in whatever capacity that is. And so for some of our, very high needs guys, they sticker our bags. But for them, that's a huge triumph to be able to get a sticker in a bag and to feel like that, we always tell them, oh, thank God, we were going to have to do that this afternoon. It's that power of knowing whatever capacity they have to give, they can give. Like everybody can give, and we all have different ways and means of doing that. But just having a space where everybody can belong without judgment and can contribute in whatever ways, the most powerful part, I think, of what we do.
And so equally as important, like here you are creating a service, creating a vehicle that's helping so many people, and yet you're helping people right here on your doorstep by just simply bringing them in and having them part of the team. Again, it's a bit selfish because I love them all. They're so happy and joyful and always laughing and always smiling, and then just happy people, and who doesn't want to be around that? And when you get to know anybody with any ability, you start to work out what their little niche is in life. We've got one guy, Mikey, who comes on a Tuesday and he's obsessed with cardboard boxes. What a great place to be obsessed with cardboard boxes. Right, there's gazillions of them out there. He loves it. He puts together the cardboard boxes and he slashes down anything to do with cardboard. But that's great. That's jobs that we don't want to do. That's really tricky and time consuming, but that's his niche. So just letting people find their little spot in here and allowing them to have ownership over it, so powerful. So sometimes when you're on the grind and you're in here and you're working hard and you are who you are, or you sort of lose sight of what an amazing job you do. You're an incredibly inspiring person. You took a big leap of faith and you didn't hold back and you didn't let your fears hold you back. I love that you believe that you honestly have the capacity to help as many people as you can, and you've really given this a go. What advice would you give to others that are out there that are wanting to help but don't know how? And even all the people that you've helped that was circumstantial at the time, and they've gone on to have change and growth, and now they can potentially have the opportunity to give back and help people like they were in that time of need. How do people engage with you? How do people help?
Again, I think everyone has a very different capacity to help. As I said, we have girls that come in 3 days a week. We have, sometimes even our local MP will come past in a pair of jeans and say, I've got half an hour between meetings, give me a job to do. Everyone has a different capacity to be able to give and to help. And so finding a space that allows you to do that is a really magnificent thing. And I think we've always, as Pinchapoo, has always been about a collaborative effort. Wherever I can, I'll deflect whatever I can off me, because I had one good idea in a shower and a shitty time in my life, and I've had thousands of people help me bring it to life. So it's about that collective. So if people want to run a collection, they can do that through their community group. We have posters on our website. If they want to buy a product, if they want to donate money, if they want to give their time, there's so many different ways for people to engage in the course, because we do understand that everyone's got very different lifestyles and capacity. So Yeah, just I guess getting on the website and just all of that stuff is listed, and there'll be something that will absolutely suit whatever your situation is.
Cool. Thank you so much. It's really, really nice to sit here with you today and
You're a bit cute. A bit cute.
listen to all your amazing things.
Thank you.
And definitely not going to judge it. You're the sparkliest guest that we've had on. You're amazing. And
what happens when that's beaten? Will you ring me and let me know?
I'll ring you and let you know.
Thank you.
No,
And then I'll up my earring game, okay?
Thanks for having me at Poo HQ.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. A huge thank you to Kate Austin for sharing her deep and intimate story that led to her founding an incredible charitable enterprise. A fascinating and heart-rending journey that has created such joy, not only for the recipients of her hard work and generosity, but for her children and her amazing team of volunteers. To learn more about Pinchapoo and how you can support their cause, check out our show notes for contact details.
To learn more about the art of giving back in whatever way you can, visit our website andrewpurdie.com.au and follow us on Instagram, The Hidden Philanthropist. Thank you for listening to The Hidden Philanthropist podcast, proudly presented by the Purdie Foundation.